The 4 years that Rob Ford was mayor of Ontario's capital city won't soon be forgotten. Never has the city and its mayor gained such international attention. Never has such a dramatic and ultimately tragic story unfolded at City Hall, ending as it did, of course, with Rob Ford's untimely death. Through it all, his constituency remained vocal and loyal. His brother and fellow city councillor Doug Ford first among them. And we're pleased to welcome the former mayor's brother, Doug Ford, to our studio to talk about his new book. It's called Ford Nation, Two Brothers, One Vision, The True Story of the People's Mayor. Doug Ford, it's nice to have you back here in our studio.
Always great to be here with you, Steve.
How you doing, Jones?
Oh boy, that brings back good memories. Yeah.
We should just explain. You and your brother call each other Jones. How come?
I can't even come up with a real answer. I think accountant at one time was named John Jones, and we'd call each other Johnny Jones, and we shorted it to Jones. There's no real story behind that.
And you just called each other that all the time?
Yeah, and it just happened.
There have already, as you know, been many books written about your time and your brother's time at City Hall, not to mention the thousands upon thousands of newspaper articles about that time.
Sure.
What is there left to tell about the Rob Ford and Doug Ford story?
Well, we want to have a little different perspective than how other people described Rob that really didn't know him, the media that really didn't know Rob. Part of the book is us growing up, our family, and the other half is Rob's challenges and successes too. So we wanted to put a perspective on how we saw it through a lens, and the book is. Boy, I could have made a book 10,000 pages. It's so hard to try to condense everything into a book.
Who actually wrote the book?
Well, we shared it with great people from HarperCollins. They're a great company. They supported us, and I can tell you, it's endless hours.
You didn't sit down behind a typewriter and write it yourself, though, right? I presume you told it to somebody?
No, but we were sitting across from each other, and endless hours. People don't realize what it takes to write a book.
Trust me, I do.
Yeah.
Let's follow up with this. I know you believe the media basically got it wrong on your brother's mayoralty. So if I were to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it was a total bust, a complete failure, 10 being it was the most perfect mayoralty in the history of the city, what number would you give it? Well,
it depends on the way you want to look at it, Steve. Let's separate it. Rob's issues, personal issues, it wasn't good. You know, you give it it's just not good. You can't even put it on a scale 1 to 10. If you look at the financial record, it's a 10 out of 10. There's no politician that, at least in recent memory that I can think of, let me repeat that. Actually, probably Mike Harris came the closest to changing things. We were facing a tremendous amount of pressure going into office, $774 million. There was sole source deals. There wasn't any transparency and accountability. Nothing was put online. We switched all that. We stopped the sole source deals. We put everything online until people could see it, make sure it was transparent and accountable. We delivered a 0% tax increase, and we saved hundreds of millions of dollars for the taxpayers.
You actually, if I recall, presented a budget in year 2 that was smaller than in year 1. Which I'm not sure that's ever been done before.
No, I don't think it has, and it shocked the Prime Minister. He was shocked, Stephen Harper at the time, asking Rob, you know, how do you spend less money one year than you did the previous year? And it's really just finding efficiencies. There's so much waste in government in all 3 levels, and it doesn't matter who's in charge. There's just a lot of efficiencies to be had.
I know that Rob obviously came in, promising to end the gravy train, but when you got in there, you know, the so-called experts who had a look at it said the gravy train wasn't nearly as big as what you guys said it was.
Yeah, that's
Is that fair to say?
That's not true. The experts didn't see the books. And I don't know who these so-called experts are, because the only experts would be the CFO of the city, and he came out and admitted that it was hundreds of millions, close over $1 billion in our opinion. The budget chief, Mike Dilgrand, he saw the budget line item by line item. He confirmed that there's $1 billion of savings. Just on the labor deal alone, we saved hundreds of millions of dollars on efficiencies. We saved hundreds of millions of dollars just doing things in a different fashion. And there's endless waste in all 3 levels of government.
So if not for your brother's personal problems, you think his mayoralty would have been defined as a great success?
It was a great success. Absolutely great.
Okay. Let's, I know you mentioned Mark Toohey in the book, who was one of your brother's chiefs of staff. You weren't a big fan of his.
No, I never was.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing was Rob was so loyal to him, so loyal. I said numerous times, you got to get rid of this guy, and Rob said, no, I'm sticking with him. And it came back to bite him in the backside.
Mark, as you know, did a book with Johanna Schneller about your brother's time in office, and we had him on this program to talk about it.
Yes.
I want to play a little snippet of a clip
Sure.
that Mark had about your brother's time, and let's play that now.
One of the things that constantly irked me when I was in the office was the number of times people either on social media or media pundits or reporters would ask publicly and privately, why do they keep sending Doug Ford out to speak for Rob Ford? Do they not know how bad that looks? I can tell you absolutely 100% that there was no time ever while I was there that Doug Ford was ever sent out to speak for Rob Ford.
He just did it.
He just did it. And many times that caused trouble. Doug thought that us not speaking was a problem. We were quite happy to have left the last word, a positive word on message, going in the direction we wanted to be. And we were very happy with the way things were going. Even if people were being critical, the last word from Rob Ford that would be at the top of the article was exactly on point. And then Doug would go out and make a statement and muddy it up. And everybody would assume, because he's the mayor's brother, that he's speaking with some sense of official import. And really, he never was. He's a smart guy, but he wasn't always there for all of the planning. And so he was disconnected and too much of a rogue agent sometimes.
Equal time for you.
Well, should I call him a liar now, or should I just call him dishonest? It's totally dishonest. Numerous times, Mark, the chief of staff, wanted me to go out and change the channel. And so I went out and changed the channels. He was accurate, not all the time did I have to check into the mayor's office to go out and speak, but numerous times, absolutely numerous times, I'd go out and speak on the issue of the day. Not to mention that Mark Toohey sat in his office with his door closed probably the vast majority of the day.
Mark, don't sue us. That's his opinion, not ours.
No, that's my opinion. He's working on a radio station, but if someone says something that nasty, you're going to find it tough.
But I think underpinning his comments are that for some reason, when Rob Ford was elected mayor, it was in some respects a package deal. In other words, you two were kind of running the city together. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, not just us two. We had a great team. We had a great executive. We had Mike Delgrand looking after the budget along with myself. We had Doug Halday looking after labor deals. We had, Michael Thompson looking after ECDev. So we had a fabulous team down there, and everyone worked hard, very hard.
Did you see yourself as kind of the co-mayor?
No, I didn't look at myself as the co-mayor. I could have been deputy mayor. I could have been budget chief. I gave that up to let other people do it. I didn't need a title.
Okay, you talk candidly about it in the book, so it's not going to come as any surprise to you that I want to ask you about this. But when it came to your brother's addictions, you said actually that it was alcohol, not hard drugs. That was his biggest problem. And I guess the thing that people ask me about all the time, given how close you two were, I mean, you've said numerous times, he's my best friend. You know, you were almost like a second dad to him growing up, looking after him. How did you not know?
How did I not know? Well, there's two. When anyone with an addiction within their family will tell you this, and people listening tonight will say, you're 100% right. There's closet addictions, and then there's very open and transparent addictions that people may come home right after dinner and start drinking, feeling a little good. When I was around Rob never drank. Any family function, Rob never drank. And I guess he went home and kids went to bed and he belted a few back.
But you saw that his behavior was becoming increasingly erratic. And why was that not a red flag for you?
Well, when I saw the tapes after, tapes would come out after the fact, I'll use St. Paddy's Day. And I thought, okay, that's Rob tying one on. But in saying that, Steve, that I still trusted Rob to make the right decision, even with a few shots of scotch underneath his belt, than I would 44 councillors. He always had the interest of his constituents in Toronto at heart. And outside of when he wasn't telling the truth on a personal addiction, when it came to the taxpayers' money, he was the most honest politician I've ever seen in this country.
And you did confront him on it one day. You asked him directly, and he lied to your face.
He did. He did, and I think he was embarrassed, to tell me, and he feel like he let me down, and it happens, and no one can relate, Steve, unless they've had someone in their family with an addiction, or a friend, or a relative. They just can't.
When you found out that he in fact did have a problem with alcohol and then maybe harder drugs after that, what did you try to do?
Well, the first thing is, we sent him down to the U.S., and then that didn't come to fruition, so he came back. I met him at Markham Airport out there, Buttonville, and then we drove at midnight up to Muskoka. And he was, and the first time I actually heard what he was consuming on alcohol was when I was in the back seat in the car, or in the car, not the back seat, I think I was driving. And I heard him speaking to the doctor at midnight, telling him what he was consuming every day.
This was at the rehab clinic that he
Yes,
got sent
going
to.
out the rehab clinic.
Everybody remembers that. I think it's one of those moments where you sort of remember where you were when your brother kind of fessed up that he had in fact smoked crack cocaine. And I think the comment was probably in one of my drunken stupors. When you confronted him with that information, how did that go?
Well, it was shocking. I remember I was driving into City Hall. My other brother called me and said, "Did you hear what Rob just admitted?" Like, he was just as shocked as I was. You can think that, he's had a few drinks and so on and so forth. No harm, no foul. But when I heard that, I thought, wow, that's shocking.
Given that you guys, I mean, you're a couple of big guys. You had a boisterous relationship growing up. Did you want to hit him?
No, I wouldn't want to hit him. I just wanted to help him. Rob had a massive heart. He helped thousands of people. And all the good that Rob did over the years, he had a personal issue. It outweighed that one personal issue that he finally came out and admitted. He went to go get help. He didn't apologize once. He must have apologized 1,000 times to people. It's very tough in his position. It was worldwide news. He was the #1 Googled person in the world at the end of that, that session there. And I just wanted to help him because I knew he was a great, honest person, and he was so dedicated to helping people. And he helped tens of thousands of people over, oh my goodness. I don't know how he did it.
Made a lot of phone calls from what he said.
Did he ever? It's just endless phone calls.
Do you know whether he actually conquered those demons before his life ended?
Oh, yeah.
He did?
Yeah. He felt like $1 million after coming out of rehab. Everyone saw him. He looked great. He looked fresh. He was ready to go. And then one day we're sitting at the restaurant, and he said he had a pain in his stomach. And I said, go to the doctors. He went to the doctors, and a couple hours later he called me and said, I'm at Humber River Hospital. Reuben Devlin, the CEO of the hospital, was there, and a doctor as well, and said, you should come by. And we went in a little room. It wasn't more than 10 feet by 10 feet. And he said Rod has spots on his lungs and all over. And so we have to send him down to Mount Sinai. And then from there, it all went downhill.
We will get back to that. I don't want to play too much of an amateur psychologist here, but others have made the observation that if Rob had not been the mayor and felt the pressure of that job on his shoulders every day, and if I may say, wanting to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Wanting to make his dad proud. Obviously, making your dad proud was a huge part of his makeup.
Yeah.
If he didn't have all that on his shoulders, do you think the demon would have been as all-consuming with him?
Steve, that's a good question, but I'm not too sure. In hindsight, you think of it, and I really couldn't answer that. I'm not 100% sure.
Did he enjoy being mayor?
He loved it.
He did, eh? Because there were lots of times he looked like he really wasn't having any fun on that job at all.
Well, when you're getting attacked just nonstop, and I understand why the media was doing it. They had a massive story, but I'm talking prior to that. When you're just being attacked full-fledged, an onslaught, it's hard. It's very hard. There's no politician in this country in recent memory that ever went through the media scrutiny that Rob, our family, went through.
And yet, in spite of everything that they read, wrote, and said about your brother, his base remained steadfast to him. Why do you think that was?
Because Rob was loyal to them, and they knew they had an honest man when it came to any concerns they had Rob would return every single phone call. It was staggering. I don't know how he did. I can't do what Rob did, return 60, 70 calls and deal with every single issue. And he was unique, really unique.
Here's an excerpt from the book. When Rob ran for mayor, we realized Ford Nation had become its own strategic voting bloc, even though we hadn't really planned that. Ford Nation, I believe, could quite possibly be the biggest bloc in Canada outside of any political party. There are roughly 340,000 people in Ford Nation. That's just in Toronto and doesn't count the hundreds of thousands of supporters in the 905, 705, and 519 area codes, not to mention the rest of the country. What do you think was the glue that kept that together, that coalition?
You know, it's interesting. And going back to the election in the U.S., there's no Ford Nation card per se. There's no registration. We have, you know, a massive list of emails and phone numbers. But it's just the average person fed up with government spending. They want a more transparent and accountable government, and they just want their voice to be heard. Our Ford Nation is such a diverse group. It's made up of NDP, of liberals, fiscal conservatives, all walks of life, from some of the wealthiest in the country to some of the poorest. And it's amazing how a staunch fiscal conservative would win the vast majority of every Toronto community housing a building in the city. And Rob cared for those people, and they had the voice, because a lot of the ethnic community came from countries that there was a lot of corruption, a lot of interrogation, intimidation, and they came to Toronto, and all of a sudden they had the mayor's home phone number. He's the only guy that gives out his home phone number. It was staggering.
As you looked at the American election campaign, did you see echoes of your brother's campaign style in Donald Trump?
Donald Trump and Rob Ford are totally different people. The movement was similar. The base was similar, but it's different in the U.S. At least what I see in the U.S., there's still, you know, the way I describe it, in Toronto, it's great. Everyone lives together. But for the most part, you know, it's really split up in three groups. This is my opinion, that there's a Hispanic population, incredible people, they're just such hard working people. And then you have the African American community, and then you have the white community, you know, working class, and so on and so forth. And here, it's not that case. With the ethnic community, you know, the African American community did not support Trump whatsoever. I think 84% roughly supported Hillary Clinton. You flip that around the other side, Rob loved that community in Toronto, and they loved him. It's very interesting. I'd love to study that one day. It's the most interesting group I've ever seen gather. If you look at any Ford Fest or whatever, it's every culture you could possibly think of. It's like a melting pot. It doesn't matter, Eastern European, Asian, you know, the black community, you name it. I find it amazing. It's a snapshot of Toronto.
There are a lot of echoes. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. There are some echoes between Trump and Ford, in as much as, well, both come from well-off families and could basically say whatever the hell they wanted, and their base stuck with them. That didn't seem to have a negative impact. And of course, the media coverage, you know, being quite intense.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, the two candidates did have that in common. You see that.
They did. The media was absolutely biased. You know, Steve, most media outlets are left, center to left. I was at a media outlet when Trump won, and you could just see it. The people they were ready to jump off the building, and I thought, wow. That's what I thought. Wow, this is incredible. I knew they're left, but not this left. They thought the world was coming to an end.
Well, here's what you say in the book. You criticize the mainstream media, saying that they had a vendetta against a politician that you'd never seen anything like it before. What do you think that was?
Well, first of all, we called the media out. We're the only politicians. I remember when we first got involved, don't get in a battle with the Toronto Star. They buy ink by the barrel and paper by the ton. Mm-hmm. Well, we buy ink by the barrel and paper by the ton too. But, you know, with social media, things were changing. And I think the media, up to today, still think certain group of the population are stupid. They can pull one over the public's eyes. And when it comes to fact-checking politicians, I'd love to fact-check the media. because they lie through their teeth.
Well, except that a lot of what they said about your brother ended up being true. The stuff about the video was true.
100%, Steve. I agree with that on that. But I could put another book together of every single lie they did. You know, you have a certain group that may be the haters that want to believe everything. And then you got the people that see right through the media and know that they lie.
Let's play another clip here. This is you back in September.
Okay.
Getting us ready for this book. Roll it, please, Sheldon.
And I can tell each and every one of you, every media outlet here, nothing. It's as I say, it's no holds barred with the media. You're going to be named in here. There's no politician safe in this country. When this comes out, from the Prime Minister to the Premier to the Mayor, it's going to rock the media world. It's going to rock the political world.
Mr. Ford,
Yep.
I read your book.
I know.
You pulled your bloody punches, sir.
I did.
You totally did.
Yeah, I pulled them, and I admit it. You know why? I sat down with our family, and like I've said in other interviews, I sat down with my mother, and she said, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to go to their level and start attacking, make this whole book? Or do you want to make this book about Rob, about, you know, us, our family, some of the values that our parents instilled in us? And I wish I could show you some of the transcripts. You'd probably fall right off your chair.
I would love to read the transcripts.
And you might even be in them.
I would love it.
No, actually, Steve, you're one of the better guys.
Now, that worries me that you say that.
No, it kind of worries me, too.
But I was so looking forward to reading this. Listen, it does unveil a lot about the family background, about your relationship with your brother, and it's, in a way, a very nice love letter to your brother. But I was so looking forward to what Doug Ford and Rob Ford really thought about all of those other politicians. And in fact, like you say, David Miller's an honest man. You say John Tory's an honest man. Mm-hmm. I was waiting for the 1-2 punches coming, and they didn't come.
Well, and like I said, David Miller is an honest man. We totally disagreed. He was a lefty, as we say. He governed as a lefty. What I don't like are people that are two-faced, the hypocritical. You know, and John Tory's a very nice guy. But he flip-flops, and he was disingenuous with the voters. I sat beside him numerous times on debates, and he looked, and he said, I'm not going to put tolls in. Well, Mayor Tolley now, he's putting in tolls. All he's doing is increasing taxes. And I sit back and ask anyone that's watching the show, name one thing he has done in 2 years. I'll give you 3 pages of stuff that we did in the first year. And he's done nothing but raise taxes. He's going to raise taxes on the roof. Depending on the size of your roof, it's going to determine how much you're going to pay. The budget has increased $1.2 billion. How? Where's the $1.2 billion gone?
Okay, I'm not here to carry water for John Tory, but I would say that people always complain about a lack of political leadership, either at City Hall or Queen's Park or on Parliament Hill, and clearly he made a rather bold decision showing some political backbone. Do you give him any credit for that?
Absolutely not. Raising taxes isn't true leadership.
It's not raising taxes, it's raising user fees. There's a difference. Well, there is a difference.
There's only, Steve, there's one taxpayer. It's coming out of your pocket and my pocket.
But taxes are not discretionary, Mr. Ford. These are discretionary charges.
You can call it user fees. You could call it anything you want. At the end of the day, they're taxes. It's like saying the roof tax. People that live in a condo, guess what? You won't have the roof tax, but everyone that owns a house gets a roof tax. It's a tax is a tax is a tax.
Forgive me, sir, I don't agree. Yeah. A tax is something obligatory. You don't have a choice about paying it. You have a choice not to drive on the Gardner or the DVP.
I fully understand what you're saying. So really, my friends in Scarborough and Etobicoke and North York, unfortunately, they can't ride the bike in the middle of the winter down the Gardner.
I hear you. So it raises the question.
So let's say 80% of the people still drive in this city. Mm-hmm. So let's say 80% of the people that drive are getting taxed. And the bicycle riders, well, you know, they God bless them. Good for them.
Clearly this, I shouldn't say clearly. Does this change your political future?
The tolls, 100% it does.
What does this mean?
It means I'm seriously considering running for mayor. I was actually leaning towards the province, but I can't sit back and we have 3 levels of government spending out of control with zero accountability. You have Justin Trudeau running up $25 billion deficit in the first year or so. You have the province, which is a complete disaster, just an absolute complete disaster with highest hydro rates in North America. People are looking at their hydro rates and getting
I think that actually is not true.
Well, that's
I
what
think if you look at the, if
I
you look
actually
at, just
believe
in terms
it
of
is.
facts,
Yeah.
in terms of facts, it's actually not true. We're somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Well, you're going to have to show me offline where it's middle of the pack, because what I've seen, we have the highest hydro rates in North America. It's like a second mortgage. And then
I'm not saying they're not too high. I'm just saying it's empirically
we'll
provable
chat
that they're not
offline
true.
and we'll trade notes. But in saying that, then we have the city that all they're doing is, how can we tax the people? There hasn't been one efficiency found. The gravy train's in full swing down at City Hall. That's not leadership. Well, leadership is actually standing up and trying to find efficiencies, trying to cut waste. And anyone that tries to tell me that there's not fat down at City Hall, all the office budgets have ballooned back up to David Miller's era. They're traveling all over the world. I don't mind traveling. All these trips that he's taken, was he taking a half a dozen trips or so all over the world? Where's the results? I haven't seen any results. What has he done in 2 years? Zero, but raise taxes, tax. That's all he's done.
Has he raised taxes beyond the rate of inflation?
Actually, let me tell you about that. So our budget was 11 billion and change, operating and capital budget. They've jumped up in 2 years another 1.2 billion dollars, and they're wondering, why do you have to raise taxes when he's increased the budget by 1.2 billion dollars? It's staggering to me.
But your mantra is subways, subways, subways. I remember your brother saying it all the time too.
Yeah.
How are you going to pay for all those subways?
Well, first of all, you don't go and build 15 kilometers of subways in a year. You take that 1.2 billion. I'll even give them the benefit of the doubt. Give them 200 million. Rate of inflation, increase the budget.
That the tolls would raise 200 million.
No, I'm sorry, with his budget. So when we left office, we balanced the books, had a surplus of 140 million. Now, I'll give them, increase the budget 200 million. Where's the other $1 billion gone? We had a deal signed with the federal government, with the province, and we got it through council on year 3 to build a Scarborough subway.
Yep.
He's reduced that to a joke, to a one-stop subway station. And when you build subways, you do it a kilometer a year. And over a certain period of time, you have a subway system. And nothing we can do for the last 25 years, because that's passé. But for 25 years, we built nothing. And instead, we worried about bike lanes and windmills. And, it's been a joke, absolute joke. And he's back on to, John Tory sat there and said 100 times, I am not going to put tolls on the road. John Tory's putting tolls on the road.
He changed his mind.
He said that we're going to have smart track. We all know smart track's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Well,
so he's going
hold
back
smart
and
track
forth.
aside for a second. I mean, I think his position would be, when the facts change, I'm entitled to change my mind. The facts have changed. You want to build infrastructure, and you got to find a way to pay for it.
Well, first of all, in the capital budget, we put down, and I heard him say that the Gardner costs $200 million a year and the DVP to maintain.
Yeah.
That's not accurate. I sat on budget. We allocated $50 million and up from about $20 million to $50 million a year for the next 10 years to maintain. There's more than enough money. He's exaggerating the cost.
So, but just so I'm clear, you are reevaluating your future plans now and potentially running an anti-toll mayoralty campaign in 2018. Have I got that right?
Absolutely. A toll for the average person going downtown, not to mention the commerce that's coming on the main thoroughways of DVP and Gardner, the trucks, the taxis, all the costs are going up. It's going to cost someone roughly about $1,200 a year. And I saw Joe Mahavik on the news. Oh, it's only $2. Yeah, buddy, it's $2 for you because the government's paying your paycheck. How about the poor person making $30,000, $40,000 a year that has to drive down there? Not to mention the cost of parking and everything. They aren't going to be able to go in their boss's office and say, oh, by the way, give me an extra $1,500. And that's after taxes. So $1,200, you got to make $1,600, $1,700 to pay. That is a mortgage payment for people.
Okay, so it's on.
Well, I don't know if it's on right now, but let's see. But I'm leaning that way. I just went like that. As soon as I heard the tolls, I thought, man, we're in deep, deep trouble as a city. And I'll never forget the city manager coming out and saying, we're on a financial cliff and we're going over the edge. That's the city manager. And I'm thinking, how can things get that out of hand when it's only been 2 years. I talked to Mike Delgrand, the budget chief, yesterday. He was going ballistic, absolutely ballistic. There's no one that knew the numbers. I knew him pretty good. I was there for 4 years. No one knew the numbers better than Mike Delgrand. And maybe you should have him on one time, because he can't believe the waste that's happening at City Hall right now.
Well, I know you're not a big fan of Mark Toohey, but on the day that John Tory made his announcement about trying to get a tolls program through council, he did tweet 2014 Mayor John Tory, 2018 Mayor Doug Ford.
Yeah.
He did tweet that, which means he agrees with you. This is a potential opening for you and a mayoralty campaign.
Let me tell you about Mark Toohey. He's not a bad individual. Okay, there's times that
Called
we
him a
got
liar 20 minutes ago.
Well, he was dishonest on that comment that no one sent me out. That's my point.
Okay.
Okay, people, the chief of staff sent me out numerous times. Rob sent me out without him even knowing. So he was dishonest on that one point. But Mark Toohey's not a bad person. In there, I think I even put, he's a very smart person.
Yep.
He's very smart, Mark Toohey. We just, he didn't like the idea of me getting involved whatsoever.
No,
What he didn't understand, I was the one who brought him on board.
But the point of the tweet was, he agrees with your analysis and thinks this is a great opening for you to become mayor in 2 years' time.
Well, if he tweets that, then I look forward to Mark Toohey helping me out on the mayoral campaign.
I'll bet you do.
Because he's a smart guy.
Mr. Ford, I want to come full circle here in our remaining moments here, and I'm sorry to remind you of this bad memory, but this is a very poignant part of your book, and it discusses your final moments with your brother. On the last day, Michael, Randy, and I were in the room with Rob. It was mid-morning. His breathing had become very bad, and he constantly needed to have fluid removed from his airway. Otherwise, nothing much had changed. All of a sudden, he opened his eyes wide and looked straight at me. He hadn't opened his eyes since his kids had visited, but there he was, looking at me. I was face to face with him, looking back at him. My mother and Renata, his wife, came into the room at that very moment. I couldn't let go of him. I just held on to him as he breathed his last breath. And then it was over. Rob was gone. I held on to him for a long time, for as long as I could, sobbing all the while. I'd lost my brother and my best friend, and life would never be the same. How is life different now that Rob's gone?
It's different. Just you you saying that, just wow. It brings back brings back memories of that day. That was toughest day of my life.
How's his family doing?
It's a challenge. The little ones, Steve. You have some great kids, and it's very very tough on them when they're 8 years old and 11 years old, and they don't have their dad. And Rob was so affectionate with the kids. They'd be jumping all over him, and he loved his family more than anything. So it's very, very tough, very tough.
Life goes on, though, doesn't it?
It does.
It has
to. His legacy will go on. A lot of people want to look at that small part of his life where he faced challenges, but he did incredible work for the city and incredible work for the common guy, the little guy.
How much pressure do you feel to continue that legacy in politics that your father started, that your brother picked up on, that you picked up on for a while?
Well, I don't know if it's pressure, but anywhere I go, what drives us is when people come up to us and say, keep going. And it's continuous every day. No matter downstairs here, when I came up, people keep going, how you doing? Way to go, rah, rah, rah. And that just drives you, and I think that was the most rewarding part of the job, is helping people. You feel like $1 million. It's like, the way I describe it, it's like at Christmas. I get a bigger thrill giving someone Christmas presents than receiving them. And when you could, help someone out on a small little issue, they'll remember it for life. And that's what Rob did. He helped, little Miss Jones take her garbage when there was a garbage strike. Mrs. Jones could be an NDP her whole life. She's voting for Rob Ford. And that's the thing. When on a party, I always say Rob was two steps left to Jack Layton on social issues, but he was 2 steps right of Attila Hun when it came to spending taxpayers' money. He was,
When, last question, when are the moments where you really find you miss him?
Every day. Every day I'm out there. people are coming up every day, not once, endless times, and it just brings fond memories. And he was so young. I went to his gravesite the other day, and the thing that went through my mind is he's so young. He had so much more to give back. There'll never be a guy like him. I wouldn't even come close to Rob. He was so unique. He had patience of Job. He could listen to Miss Jones for an hour. I'm not that way. Mrs. Jones, you want your sidewalk fixed? Boom, boom, boom. I'll be there tomorrow. Rob would listen to Mrs. Jones talk about her grandchildren and her kids and her life. He'd sit there for an hour. I was in the car once. We drove from Etobicoke all the way down to Danforth. The same lady was talking on the phone. I kept saying, get off, and he kept, giving me the backhand, shut up. So that was Rob, unique. I could never figure him out 100%.
Well, we are grateful for your presence here at the station today. Thank you for coming in and talking to us about Ford Nation, two brothers, one vision, the true story of the People's Mayor, Rob and Doug Ford.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.